What is up, my friends? Welcome. IAE is over. Star Citizen has reached record numbers of funding, and I have not looked at the tracker in over a week. So today I want to check out like how much money they've made in this last event, but then I want to talk about why they made so much, why this year is a little bit different, where we're headed, and just an overall review of the last couple of weeks, because Star Citizen has seen some pretty big success, and I feel like it's probably going to be better than I think it was. I'm thinking they probably are hitting around $140 million this year at this point, which is kind of crazy. But let's go validate that. Let's see what they actually have made, and then we're gonna talk about how they did it. So we got our normal site CCU game that does the tracking on a monthly basis, and 100, yeah, that's a lot. 146. Yay. I was talking on InfoRunners the other day, and I thought at the time that we were talking that they had probably hit around 25 million maybe, but they were at like 130 something, 38 million. They're almost 45% ahead last year, which was only 1% behind their best year ever. So they are well and far beyond anything they've ever done. And as you can see, November was they made 32 million. I think that's the best month they've ever had. That is, yeah, because May is usually pretty good. They made 29 million this May, which was their best May ever. May is their second best month every year. November is their first best month every year. And as you can see, 22 million, 23 million, 28 million, 20 million. This year, 32 million. So they had their best May and their best November ever this year, which obviously put them in a league of its own in terms of funding. But every other month that we saw, April here at 8 million is higher than their previous best years at 2023 at 7 million, 2022 at 8 million again. June, 9 million. Best month before that was June of 2022 at 10 million. Besides that, they're hitting 7 million, 7 million, 8 million, 6 million, and then a lot less before that. In August, they made 9 million this year. Normally, they're making around 3 million, 5 million, 3 million, 5 million, 5 million in August. In September, they made 9. Generally, they're making 7, 5, 5, 5, and 3. So it's just every single month they kicked it off this year. And that's for two major reasons. One, as much as you would like to deny it, the game has become more playable. Most people I don't think are anymore. Yes, there are still glitches. Some of the problems that we have always had are still there. Good Lord, don't get me started on the interaction menu. The quantum travel system, the star map. There's a lot of problems the game still has. I hope nobody would ever try and say that this game is perfectly good and ready to go, but it is more playable. We don't die from elevators constantly. Nobody is going into elevators wondering if they're going to come out the other side alive or not. That was a terrible time. 30Ks were a thing, right? Even, before last year when you would crash out, you wouldn't come back where you were. You would still have to start over. Now you kind of get brought back to where you were. Just things have been getting fixed. Even the freight elevators, as problematic as they are, they're nowhere near as bad as they were at the beginning of the year, at least from what I've seen. Again, edge cases exist, but the game has gotten more solid. Not only has it gotten more stable, which is a big playability point, they've released new content every month. We have trailer upon trailer that we can look at and see. They're releasing big patches that have narrative trailers focused on telling a story, focused on getting people interested in the game, and showing more about what you can actually do. We go over this a lot on the channel when we're ever doing streams, but if you go back to these older patch trailers, even these later ones, yes, they had a little bit more narrative to them, and they were doing like somewhat telling you what was like some fun stuff you could do in the game, but these were just feature lists. These were patch notes turned into videos. I mean, look at the way that they end. Literally, they just list off the features and then tell you, it's in this patch, come play. It's wildly different from the trailer that you find now where they're telling a story and they're like showing you a quest. They're showing you what you will literally be doing in this patch if you come and play. And, it's all in a more professional, more interesting, mysterious manner. So that's drawing people back in that maybe weren't playing before. And then your performance is a little bit better. So when somebody hops into the game and they don't fall through the floor immediately, they're like, oh, wait, this is actually working. Maybe I'll play for a couple more hours. This is a video I point people towards to get this kind of understanding of what's happening for people. This is a creator, JV, who I watch every once in a while. And you'll hear him talk about this throughout his time playing, how it's gotten better.
Afterburners, engage. Oh yeah, look at that. Let's do a little barrel roll here. Woo! Okay. You know what I really want? I want a Mass Effect game that lets you do this. Straight up, ladies and gentlemen. Woo.
Sorry, CIG. Make Mass Effect.
Okay, we're good. We are going to Onyx facility.
So if you watch somebody like him play, not to single him out or anything, but it gives you an idea of how it is to jump into the game if you maybe play it once or twice a year, want to check in and see how things are. Throughout this video, I'm not going to play the whole thing for you, but throughout this video, he literally says, this is not what I expected. I thought like normally this does not go well, and I think that they're making progress, and I think it's at this point.
All right, guys, well, thus concludes our 2025 look at Star Citizen. You know what? I have to say, I think I've had the best time this time with Star Citizen. I didn't die. I didn't have any major F-ups. I almost did, but I didn't. And you know what? As much as this whole thing is like a scam, and I don't know like what it means for a game to be in development.
It's such a weird sense. As much as it's a scam.
For over a decade and have, you know, raised so much money, and is it ever coming out, blah, blah, blah. I still like on some level, I get the vision of it. I don't understand the execution, but I certainly...
We could keep going with that. You guys get it though. Like the way that people are reacting to this year clearly shows that the game has made progress, and that progress has translated into a lot more people coming back, and those same people like to spend money. You might think it's people spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it's not. It is people going out and buying like the small ships. Where the heck? These small ships, the Clipper. We're going to get to this, but they have done a very good job at getting people to shell out just a little bit more. You know, if it's a $45 game, what is another $45 ship on top of that? But anyways, let's look at how this success is manifested. So looking at Twitch, I know, not the best metric. I don't like using Twitch as a metric of how popular games are. Like a lot of the games that you would see on here that you would think are very, very popular are not doing well in terms of viewership, because some games are just more fun to watch than others. There are promotions going on, all kinds of stuff that skews the numbers, but it does show kind of what they're going for if we look at the Twitch metrics. So I did mention promotions. A lot of you know Twitch drops were active for Star Citizen over the last 2 weeks, and that boosted Star Citizen actually into the top 50 most viewed games in the last 2 weeks. Maybe not a huge achievement for a lot of people, but that is eyeballs. Watch time in terms of hours, 2.5 million hours watched in 2 weeks. That's a lot of, like, that's an advertisement, right? That's a trailer. And if you can get the game to perform better than people think it's going to, doesn't have to be great, but if it's not a scam, that on its own, like a lot of people have a really low bar for Star Citizen. So just getting people to see it play when it's not completely shitting the bed is actually a pretty good advertisement for the game. And it had its troubles during IAE for sure, but it did not do as poorly as it normally would have. And I think a lot of people were expecting much worse with the Twitch drops, with the free fly, with the referral reward, with 4.5, all of that, or 4.4, all of that releasing was kind of pointing towards, oh my God, this could be terrible. Now, the metrics, as you can see, are just up across the board. Max viewers, 42,000. Normally, I would say like you're seeing maybe 8,000 to 9,000 people on the most popular times watching Star Citizen throughout the week. 4.4 people streamed the game. That's insane. Oh my gosh. 7.5 average viewers. So that's usually around where it peaks. They did a good job. This was a good promotion. And as somebody who was streaming, a lot of people jumped in and were talking in the stream and were active that I know for certain haven't been playing for a while. So this very well may have completed what they were trying to do, which was plan for a lot of different things to happen to show the unique nature of Star Citizen, from a new star system launching to a new storyline being developed with aliens that have been very hyped up, to a really big deal spaceship, the first generalist spaceship, which is gonna be a big seller. Like, let's be real. Twitch drops, getting people active on Twitch. And then on top of all of this, like, it is still IAE. So they've got all of the regular promotions that were going on. This was just a powder keg, if you will. This was a a storm of a lot of very good things happening at one time for them, and they kind of planned for that. So I'm sure there are things that maybe didn't go as well. I think some of the decisions that they made were controversial, made some people pissed off more than others, but overall, look at the freaking viewership numbers on here. It wanes over time as people get their drops, but what it did was it reminded people Star Citizen's still a thing, and it's still working in a more positive direction. If you're the kind of person who only checks in on Star Citizen once a year, there's a very good chance that you just had a positive encounter with Star Citizen over the last 2 weeks. And for a lot of people, that positive encounter has turned into regular gameplay again. I can't count the number of people that I've seen say, yeah, I check in every once or twice a year. This year is the first time that I've checked in and actually played for more than a couple of days. And that's important for a game like this. Very important for a game like this. Now, on Google Trends, you can also see interest over time. Star Citizen has always kind of kept a pretty low baseline if you compared it to other things. What is something that I can compare to? I mean, let me show you No Man's Sky. This will put it into perspective. Is insane. No Man's Sky is an absolute baller when it comes to the heights it can reach. Even its bests, even Star Citizen's bests are around the baseline of No Man's Sky. So just to give you an idea of where Star Citizen can get in terms of its like overall popularity, November is a massive time. Absolutely massive time for Star Citizen. Biggest time of the year, and look at where it is compared to No Man's Sky biggest time. So just good to keep that in mind and look at where where Star Citizen spikes here. Generally, like I said before, it's May and November. Yep, May, November, May, November. That's how this goes. Those are the two big events. Keep an eye out for the February event starting to sneak in with their In Case You Missed It. Now that they have so many ships every year, that's going to be a massive sale on its own. But interest over time goes up and down. May, November, and they hit this one perfectly. November 23rd through the 29th. That is basically as popular as the game can get any given year. And again, that's why they timed all of this for that. Sorry, I'm Santa Claus right now. So a lot of progress, a lot of funding. They're now at $920 million. By next summer, they're going to hit $1 billion. That's crazy. But again, like I said, you can see that it's not just massive ships that people are buying. If you go in and you actually look at what's going on with these sales, this is an example of a ship that people may have shelled out for here, but not just the ship, the weapons that come with it. This is one of their big moves this year in IAE, one of the more controversial ones. I talked about it. Many in the community have talked about it, but they are now selling these kits, these weapon kits, which they have been for a while in different scenarios, but it's starting to get more common and branch out a little bit more, which makes people wary. All of that aside, these are not making insignificant amounts of money for them, I think, as are not the paints, which we have way, way more than we ever have in Star Citizen. The paints in this game have exploded in 2025. If you remember, we didn't really get anything in-game as a reward that would stick with our account outside of some of the small-time promotions they did. But in terms of doing something in the game and then getting a reward from doing that something and keeping it, that wasn't really that common before this year. The Resource Rush was actually the first widespread event where they did something like that, because they didn't have that many assets before. They didn't have any paints for a lot of different ships. They didn't have collectibles and designs that they could use. Now, they're all over the place. There's so many. They're starting to not have to depend as much on selling ships as they are having to just sell cosmetics for ships. Potentially little statues that you can have in game or little things that you can brag about. Obviously, skins are going to get more and more interesting for people, and I think this is probably the best way that they should try and monetize the game going forward, because it makes the least difference gameplay-wise, but we all know that there are many different options they could choose for that. Regardless, the store and the way it works is a lot different than it used to be. Armors are now on here. They've got patch bundles, which are gearing up different weapons with armors and skins that people really like, and honestly sometimes just want one part of it, but they'll go and they'll shell out the $16 to get the other parts. All of this is making them a lot more money from a lot more people than they used to make even 5 years ago. It's not as much the whale game as it used to be. It is definitely becoming more, let's spread out our player base, let's get more people involved, let's offer them things that are a little bit more palatable. No more concept ship sales, more persistence in the game, so you're actually keeping the stuff you have. We'll throw in the item recovery tier 0 for now, so that until crafting is in at least, you don't actually lose your stuff. And then on top of all of that, the stuff we actually are starting to release is looking good. Like they've definitely grown more in their designs. So it's all coming together again, just to lead back to a really freaking successful year on the back of an incredibly successful IAE. And I think they're going into 2026 much better than they've gone into any year in the last several. MDC was one of the ships they showed off at IAE. This was basically a Jeep with a automated turret on the back. Great for solo players who want to go out and have some defense while they're looting an outpost. The L-22 Wolf we just went over is the next version of the Kruger Intergalactic Light Fighter that came out earlier this year. The Drake Clipper is the first generalist ship in Star Citizen, meant not necessarily to be a cargo hauler like a Cutlass Black or a Freelancer or a C1 that was used as a generalist ship in the past. No, this one has a limited cargo, but it also has the essentials of everything else: a medical bed, a crafting bench, a radar system, defenses, and a little bit of cargo. Just enough to give you a ship that can get everything you need to be done for your entire career, but doesn't necessarily specialize, so you still have to pick some other stuff up. I think this was an incredibly successful ship for them. Jared said the most successful Drake release they've ever had, I believe. And as my friend Executing the Infrunners pointed out, the Cutter was their most successful Drake ship before, and it turned out to be the most successful ship. So that might make this the most successful ship they've ever released. I don't know. The Drake Golem Ox was a additional variant of a ship we got earlier this year. I think a fantastic choice to make a variant for out of cargo, and I'm guessing a lot of people picked it up because this is a nice package. Perseus is the big one. This is the whale ship. This one costs a stupid amount of money. Very interesting ship. I don't know if there's a lot of content in the game for it just yet, but we're getting there. Either way, capital ship, super beneficial to CIG to get released for this event. And then the Salvation is a new starter ship for salvagers. I think this is a good one because there are starter ships for almost every profession. We've been missing salvage. And even though I don't suggest people jump into the game with a starter ship that is specific to a profession, just in case you don't like that profession, some people do a free fly and they know exactly what they want, in which case this is a great ship to start out with if you have a career in salvaging and you want to buff it a little bit. Either way, this year, not gonna lie, I have different feelings about how it's gone, but it was kind of a masterclass by CIG. They made mistakes for sure. They made mistakes, but they played it very well. They made their money. They improved their game. They launched the most important technologies in both gameplay and the back end that you could potentially say they ever have. They got in 2 star systems, both incomplete, but you know, it is still a significant move. 27 ships and vehicles released, some off the backlog, no concept vehicles. I would believe that there are more people playing the game daily now than there were at the beginning of this year. Ultimately, this seems like it was a huge success for them, and IAE just capped it off. And folks, we're at 146 million, but we've got one more month. And I don't think there's a single month this year that has gotten $4 million. So they will guaranteed reach $150 million in funding this year. And you can go back and check out my own videos. I did not think it was going to get that far. I thought 140 million was still guessing high as of like June of this year. This is crazy. I truly hope that the success they found this year has allowed them to do what they need to do to finish Squadron 42 and release that dang game so that it can come out, hopefully be good, and help to fund the real development of the PU we've all been waiting for. With engineering going into the game and crafting coming into the preview channel, maybe that is what's happening. Maybe we're getting back to features. Maybe we're moving towards 1.0, but we'll have to see. The next few months are going to tell us a lot. Let's see what they say at the end of this year in the letter from the chairman. We'll take the 30% of that really does matter and try to make out what's going to happen in 2026. But this is it's an exciting time for sure, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you had fun at IAE and made all the decisions that you don't regret. And I will catch you in the next one. It's a weird one. What a freaking year for them.